Insight number 3. Faced with reality, which is the sober view, for a few brief moments, then the afflicted goes voluntarily back to illusion, which is the lustful view. This is because the lustful view is what they have known for such a long time that when confronted with the truth of sober thinking, they believe truth to be falsehood. So this is talking about a situation where momentarily the person gets to see another person without being sexually aroused. Let's say a male is viewing a female and the male is not having even a sexual interest in her. Mentally, they're not thinking of her sexually. And so at that moment, he is actually seeing her without lust. This is a sober view, a sober perspective, a real view of her. And he mistakenly thinks that his perspective is incorrect because he is not viewing her sexually. So he tries to induce in himself a state of viewing her in a sensual way. So he tries to make himself view her in a sexual way. This he does because he perceives or he thinks that the lustful view is the correct version of reality. Meaning, a lot of people think that men should be lusting after women and women should be lusting after men. They consider this to be completely natural and the normal state of affairs. In other words, they consider it the normal state of a mind of a man ought to be sexually interested in a woman. And when they're viewing the woman non-sexually, they consider that to be a false state of mind. Faced with reality, which is a sober view, meaning when you're in a sober state of mind and not feeling lost. In that sober view, faced with reality for a few brief moments. So being in that state for a few brief moments. Then the afflicted, meaning the one who genuinely and generally experiences lust and has this lusty problem. This afflicted person goes voluntarily back to illusion. Meaning he goes voluntarily back to a lustful view. So I'll read that again slowly. Faced with reality, sober view, for a few brief moments, then the afflicted goes voluntarily back to illusion, which is a lustful view. This is because the lustful view is what they have known for such a long time, that when confronted with the truth of sober thinking, they believe truth to be falsehood. Now, of course, in some circumstances, this is not true. For example, somebody who experiences lust and is endeavoring to free himself from this lust. When lust comes, he may divert his attention and say, no, this is wrong, and I'm going to focus on here and something else, and try to divert his attention from that, But this is talking about a person who is very truthful with themselves to such a degree that they believe lust to be true because they feel it, so they cannot deny it, and they say yes, this is true. For example, this is actually talking about a person who believes that when you look at a woman, you're supposed to view her in a sexual way. If you are not looking at her in a sexual way, then there's something wrong with you. This is talking about a person who believes that when you see a woman, you're supposed to see her in a sexual way, and that is the right way to view. Thus, when in a circumstance that arises when he does not see a woman sexually, he thinks to himself, what is happening here? I'm not seeing her sexually. I'm not interested in her sexually. What the heck is going on? I gotta fix my perspective, and he starts working on himself, trying to see her in a sexual way, because he believes that that is the truthful way of seeing. So this is talking about a situation where, let's say he is with his girlfriend, and the girlfriend is wearing something, trying to appeal to him, to be appealing. And then for whatever reason, the pose that she's posing like, or the outfit that she's wearing doesn't make her appealing, and the whole thing backfires. And at that moment, the man who's looking at this girl is really dumbfounded, because he's looking at her saying, why am I not seeing her as sexually attractive? What the heck is going on? He does not understand that a lot of this attraction stuff is based on positioning, colors, shapes, ideas, so many things put together that all build the overall attraction. Building in him a sense of wanting to engage, and part of that engagement is sexual. So, not believing that he's seeing things correctly, meaning he is really seeing her correctly. He is sober, and he's looking at her going non-sexually, because none of the outfit is matching correctly to be appealing. None of the way she's standing is not appealing, and so reality has smacked him in his face, and he's like looking at her like, wow, puzzled, because he is not experiencing attraction towards her. He's dumbfounded. What the heck's going on? So he says in his mind, the problem must be me. I'm not seeing her correctly. He doesn't realize he's actually seeing her correctly, and with a sober mind, and he's out of illusion. He believes that being in a state of illusion and being attracted to her because of these illusory things, he believes that being attracted to her is the normal state. To be overwhelmed, So he starts to adjust his thinking, shifting his perspective to try to induce in himself a state of attraction, even sexual attraction, to induce himself into that, because he believes that way of thinking to be true. So this is what this is talking about. So I'm going to read it one more time. Faced with reality for a few brief moments, then the afflicted goes voluntarily back to illusion, which is the lustful view. I'll read it again. Faced with a sober view for a few brief moments, then the afflicted goes voluntarily back to the lustful view. This is because the lustful view is what they have known for such a long time, that when confronted with the truth of sober thinking, they believe it to be falsehood. They believe the truth to be falsehood. So he's looking at her and going, I must not be seeing her correctly. And he readjusts his thinking and way of feeling about her, so that he induces himself a state of lust, because he believes that if he looks at her, he's supposed to naturally be sexually aroused or sexually interested in her. This is insight number 4. Now a little step further from the last insight, which is a person who does not recognize that the sober view is actually the correct view. That's insight number 3. Insight number 4 is about a person who recognizes that the sober reality is actually the real reality. It's the clear way of thinking, seeing, observing. So this is about that. So those who recognize reality, that is the sober view, but are not yet established in reality, are not greatly aware of the real wholesome pleasures available to them. Therefore, they might voluntarily choose to go back to the excitement and pleasures of illusion, which is the lustful view. So there comes a point in someone's life that they recognize that, hey, this lustful view is an illusory view, and that the sober view is actually the real reality. However, since they have not immersed their mind in this reality, let me read it from the book. There are those who partially recognize the reality of the sober mind and the illusion of sex. If they have not immersed themselves, which is their mind, in the experience and pleasure of the sober state. So if they have not immersed themselves in this sober state, so it's just a partial recognition. They recognize it, but they have not immersed themselves into it. I'll just discuss this with you a little bit further. If they have not immersed, that is to dunk, you have a water, a jug of water, and you put your mind into it, immersed. If they have not, it's like submerged, so thoroughly submerged, fully experienced, the same idea. If they have not immersed themselves in the experience and pleasure of the sober state, and have not let its pleasures satiate their being continuously. Satiate means for them to be fully satisfied, If they have not done this in a continuous state, they are likely to go into an illusory state just to be able to experience pleasure. It's like any activity. If you get involved in any activity and you don't see the pleasure for it, you just give it up generally. Generally, people give it up. They say, I don't see the pleasure, where the pleasure lies. This could be an activity such as watching baseball. I remember watching baseball when I had a house, and I would be watching baseball. And then I said, let me try watching this baseball thing. Because I have not watched it. And I sat there for 2-3 minutes. I'm like, I'm going to go. This is, what's happening here? So every game, every activity has a pleasure aspect to it. But if you're not familiar with where the pleasure actually lies in there, where the pleasure comes from, where to focus, where is the pleasure, then you miss out and you don't know what's going on. So, and you give it up. This is true of truth or sober thinking or reality as well. If you're not aware of reality, where to find pleasure in reality, where to be sober and full of pleasure and experience, a wonderful state of being. And if you don't understand it, then you leave and you go into illusions. Many people do, or stay here and be miserable. So that's why a lot of people go into drugs and alcohol and all that, as an escape from something which it is painful or whatever, or just simply not pleasurable. So that is true also of a person who recognizes, because it's just a starting thing for him. He's just learning about it. So he's learned that, hey, this sober way of thinking is pretty good, but I don't see where the pleasure lies. And so because he doesn't experience pleasure, he goes into, voluntarily he does this. He goes back to the lustful view because he's familiar with pleasure and he wants to experience pleasure, a state of wonderful being, or being the pleasure taking over and feeling good, that kind of thing. Just to be able to experience pleasure. Insight number 5. Sometimes a person presents a lifestyle or behavior as if it is absolutely valid, as if the artificial reality which he is exemplifying or speaking of is the way things really are. So this happens often in movies, and also you see it happen in actual life as well. Often you see it in people who are very pretentious. Okay. So let's take the example of some movies. Some movies present a certain lifestyle, as if that's the way things are, and without actually blatantly telling you this is the way to live, but just living it visually on screen. They're exemplifying it. They're showing by example, and that's a very powerful statement, to show by example. And then people learn from this. Some people learn from this to absorb that reality and experience life as it is being shown on screen. A small example of that is that often you see drinking displayed in movies, and what's associated with it is like somebody often drinking a lot and then becoming sick, getting a hangover next day, and often now this is a very negative experience, the hangover, but often they display it with something fun, a funny experience, so that you get to see the hangover and you get to experience fun with it. So instead of stating the truth that, hey, this is actually quite terrible and entirely negative, plus you know some people that don't know what they did the night before, instead of seeing it as an absolute negative, what they're presenting it as, hey, this is here, but also it's fun. They present it with fun, you know. So you as an audience member who watches gets the experience of fun along with that entirely negative aspect. So it's a sort of a manipulation, whether purposefully or not. People can get an incorrect view, an incorrect perspective of drinking, thinking it's fun and the negative experience. Many people experience drinking and it's entirely negative, no fun at all, in the morning especially, and so many other things that go along with it. Some people experience drinking and add the fun along with it because they've experienced this online, so thinking that is real, they decide on going that path, making the fun part of that, and so their experience of the whole experience is negative and fun. This is what they perceive it to be as. So they're presenting it as absolutely valid. A way a person talks to you, what they do, how they do it. All these things are projecting a reality, and whether you're going to buy into it or not, that's the question. Okay, so there are some people who have a lifestyle that is very damaging to themselves and or to others. For example, they stay up late into the night partaking of intoxicating drugs. When presenting this lifestyle to others, they might say, "Come on, man, it's really good. It will relax you. Then we will just sit here with the guys partying the night away." All right. Now, in this case, the person sharing this information has just presented a lifestyle of a way of spending the evening. The evening consists of two things. One, damaging oneself. That's terrible. Because I'm laughing because it's so odd. So, okay. One, damaging oneself, possibly damaging others Because once intoxicated, who knows what you will do afterward if you start roaming the streets. 2. In totality, the evening is presented with the idea that it is cool, maybe even fun, and that it is real good. An example of behavior, yes. So I'm talking about sometimes the person presents a lifestyle or behavior as if it is absolutely valid. An example of behavior would be if you are among others and one of them starts jokingly insulting other races, nationalities, or persons. 2 things are presented here. 1, insulting others and sometimes calling them inferior. 2, this insulting is presented in a joking manner to give it a flair of fun and good times. Anyone can start talking about anything, and if you listen to only their point of view, no matter how strange it is, you do have the ability to see the logic behind it and to identify with it. However, our life is not about simply listening to other people's limited and broken logic and to go along with it. Our life can be much greater than that. It can be about taking into consideration many or possibly all points of view in order to find a behavior or a lifestyle that is beneficial to all. So this is very, 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 very crucial. If you start listening to somebody and do not allow yourself to consider various perspectives and just listen to their perspective and their logical way of thinking, their logic, their brand of logic, you're out of touch with reality. Addictions or obsessive behavior or just these things occur because the person is living an imbalanced life. He's focused on maybe one or 2 areas of life, and the rest of his life is gone awry, gone messed up. He's just not focused on it, and he does not progress in the rest of his life. Only he's focused on this, and this is damaging to himself. So let's say he's only focused on his bodybuilding, Now every other area of his life is suffering because of it. If he focuses on his relationship only, every area, his family, his relationship with God, his ambitions, everything is forgotten because he's focused on the woman and his relationship. Even though the relationship may be good, it's taking away from reality. One ought to focus on the whole, every aspect of the whole, to make a proper decision of what to do. Eat right, sleep right, have a good relationship, have family, have friends, be ambitious with various things, projects that you want to do to help society, whatever, all this stuff, So you need to be aware of this. This is very important, that when this idea, which is when you're presented with information bluntly being told to you or shown by example, such as in movies, you see some movie person do something and then you learn from that. Not to buy into it automatically. Understand that some people, just because people do certain things doesn't mean it's right. Just because they present some way of being and doing doesn't mean that you automatically have to follow. You understand that your mind, you want to be a conscious, alive person, and live person rather than a robotic. And you have to understand that when somebody is showing a particular lifestyle of theirs, it is teaching you. Also, Also, it's highly manipulative. You don't know if what they're showing is absolutely true, but they're presenting it as if it's absolutely true. Let's bring out some examples on sexual presentations. So I found this information up from an ex-porn actress who describes in a testimony to some official governmental body in the United States. And this was on YouTube, I found, and she said that women are being abused in sexual programs, many sexual presentations. Example she gave was there's a man who has a 12-inch genital organ, and he is inserting it into in a ramming fashion into the woman. You know, she says she herself, not herself, I mean the woman that this is being done on, she does not have the capability to hold 12 inches. So where do you think the rest of the genital organ goes to? She said it goes into her internal organs. It's physically messing up her other parts of her internal organs. And so what you see on screen is, oh, she's greatly acting like she's really enjoying this, but actually she's suffering. She's in pain. This is what she said, that many of the actresses are loading up on pain medication because they have to take painkillers. On a daily basis, they are having so much sexual interaction that their privates are hurting. And so they're in such pain they don't want to feel anything when they go to the set. So they are taking painkillers and to feel absolutely nothing. They're not feeling absolutely zero, nothing, zero. And they have to do supreme acting to present to you on with these videos that, oh yes, they're really thoroughly enjoying it. So they're presenting this reality, oh yes, we're really thoroughly enjoying it, when actually no, they're not. You know, it's fake. And they're presenting a reality which is not true. Exemplifying, oh yes, we're enjoying it. No, you don't know if that's true or not, and it isn't. It's good that this lady came forward and gave this information. Yeah, so a lot of people have died because of overload of pain medication. They eventually died. Then they started, once they realized that people die because of this stuff, they started taking alcohol and other kind of drugs to stay alive and not feel the pain or numb the pain. What she also said was that the women were called on set. A woman was called on set and asked to perform sexual interaction with this man, but she said there were no cameras present, and the man said, "Yeah, you're under contract to interact with me." And intimidation methods of inserting scissors in her privates were used. This is what she mentioned. Essentially, they were enslaved, abused thoroughly, and she said it has ties into prostitution. Right, so this is very important. So people are watching these very sexual programs thinking, oh, this is so fantastic. The woman is enjoying it so thoroughly. And she's not. It's fake. 90% of women, I remember seeing this thing online somewhere, 90% of women who go into creating a sexual video, 90% of them never try again. The experience is so horrific and negative, they don't try it again. That's why you see a lot of these women videos online, you see a lot of women who are new and fresh. You never see them again. 10% who go into contract become essential slaves, and a lot of them become that way. Now, let's see. It's a very sobering thought. The lying. I remember I was walking with my sign on Oxford Street, and it said sex addiction cure. A lady stopped me and said, she admitted that she was one of the persons who would video one of the shoots, and she said it's the most boring place you could be in. And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "It's all acting." It's fake. Anyway, so yeah, good. Okay, so these videos are how I'm going to describe what's going on here is basically I'm going to give you an overview. I will show on the outskirts of the issue that contributes to the problem. I discuss those things because they contribute and you need to be aware of them. If you're not aware of these small things, which are not actually small, but they're on the outskirts of the main issue, and you go ahead with trying to solve the problem, understand it and solve the problem, these things will be pulling you back. Because issues will come up, and they say, well, and you will think, well, I can't possibly go forward with this because this is true. And what you haven't figured out that, no, this is false. This issue you have not solved. So one of the side issues, for example, is how society determines, different societies determine what males and females should wear. This is not natural. In other words, females are not born and inherent, meaning it is not natural. It is not there, self-existing, that a female should be wearing this kind of clothing and a man should be wearing this kind of clothing. It's made up. So not knowing this causes problems. So if you're trying to solve the main issue, sexual fixations, and you're not aware of this, this will, like a hook, pull you and stop you from progressing. So the side issue, yes. So there's many side issues that contribute to the main issue, and they are hooks into your concept of reality, and you need to be aware of these hooks, how they are actually false, and break them apart, allowing you to go on to the solving the main issue, sexual fixations, which is sexual fixations. Okay. All right, insight number 6. In regards to sex, some manipulators who want to profit present sex in an enticing, enjoyable way, speaking of it gloriously, and the general public start to believe that sexual interaction with others are to be practiced in the manner which the manipulators display. People start to believe the misleading pseudo-reality that the manipulators portray about sex. The explanation of it is here for number 5 as well as number 6. Sometimes a person presents a lifestyle or a behavior, they're involved in an action, and they present their viewpoint, they engage in the activity as if it's absolutely true. Thus resembling, giving you the resemblance that this is valid, this is true to do, this is the way to do it, is this way. They present it in this manner, sometimes, in order for you to believe it is real. In order for you to believe it as real. And many times people do believe it, because there is some validity to what is being presented. Some validity. So that we've talked about this before, where they mix truths with what they present. With some of the lies, there's some truth to it too. In fact, they flaunt their pseudo-reality, which is a fake reality, a made-up reality. So it's an illusion, really, made to appear real. So they flaunt their pseudo-reality to you effectively and with subtlety, or with great show, and sometimes through humor, through ideas, etc. So they're mixing different things, like humor, along with whatever they're doing. So you're getting a double impact on your mind, and you may be more accepting of this, because your mind experiences the thing as a whole, the experience as a whole. They weave a web and others are caught following them. People lose sight of alternative ways, which is different ways of thinking about the subject matter, because of the intricate web they designed specifically for our minds. The reality that they might choose to project could be about who they are, what characteristics and mannerisms they have. This is actually very simple. It's a very simple insight to understand, but it had to be said. A big point about this here, I want to mention, is that when a person tries to manipulate, they often exaggerate. They often speak quite fast. They might use a method of having you take them seriously, thus impacting you by that method. I remember once a guy came to where I was working once in America, and he was wearing a turban. Now, for Indians, it's no big thing. There's a lot of people who wear turbans. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're anything significant. He might have thought that I thought, oh, he's significant because he's wearing a turban. Anyway, so he comes there to where I was working and sees me and starts talking to me, and he says his English is not that good, but he makes plain. It's plain enough to tell me. In other words, he knows English, but not grammatically all correct, but he knows a lot of words. So he says to me in so many words that he is well known in India, and that he's a great a miracle worker, a holy man of some sorts. I'm being jovial with him as he's talking and smiling, just in a very nice, relaxed mood, and I'm having fun, and he's saying something, I laugh, Anyway, so he wants to show me his powers. That's what he says. so, so I'm like, what? Okay, he wants to show me some powers. Then, I'm still in a jovial mood, so I'm relaxed. I'm smiling politely, this and that, and he says for me not to smile, not to joke around or anything, not to smile, not to be lighthearted, in other words. And I'm like, okay, Now, by this method, he's trying to impact, which I was speaking to you, my mind, that, hey, I'm dealing with something significant here. I better take him seriously. He goes on to do a mind reading show of his powers. Now, I've done magic as far as magicians learning tricks, because I like it very much, and I'm actually a magician as well. I practiced for many years using card tricks and coin tricks, as well as a bit of mentalism. Anyway, so I like, these are all tricks, Anyway, because I like things that are puzzling, and I was always interested in that as well. And so he's like, he does this trick, and then he says how much for me to pay him. He did this supposedly mind reading trick where he made the prediction, wrote it in the paper, hands it to me, and I'm supposed to say what's in the paper while he's written it beforehand, that kind of thing. Anyway, so a prediction kind of trick. But he plays along as if it's not a trick, but rather his powers, his mind powers, his spiritual powers. Anyway, so he goes on to say how much for me to pay him, and I say 0. Well, anyway, so I'm briefing him on it. Eventually, he gets up and goes. As he goes, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, "Oh, not a bad trick." And I said to myself, "Wait a minute, he did a magic trick. He was doing no spiritual nothing. He was trying to fool me. He was doing a magic trick, which actually I know how that's done, but I'm just showing you. I'm telling you about this because I want you to know that what method he used. First, when he impacted the mind by trying to say, don't laugh or smile, because this is a serious matter. I'm going to be really performing a serious mind reading on you. Using my spiritual powers. I will predict your future. He actually said future, I'm going to read your future kind of thing. He also said, oh yeah, when you get rich in the future, I'll come to visit you kind of thing, Anyway, so he was going to take advantage of me, in the future even too, Anyway, so and then he made skedaddle. He quickly left after he saw that I'm not paying him any money. So he left, and he quickly goes after he sees that he's getting no money from me, right? So I sat and thought about it. I go, wow, this guy not only did a regular magic trick, pretending that he's a spiritual guy, but also he was gonna milk me for money in the future. Wow. I went after him. I said, this idiot guy coming here pretending, putting on a show. My God. I went up to him and said, what the heck are you doing? If I see you around here pretending to be a spiritual guy, you know. I said to him, if I ever see you around here, I'm going to call the cops. I better not see you. My God, what a, Anyway, so, oh yeah, so when somebody wants to trick you, often they use speed because this allows you to think. They overwhelm the conversation, they overrule you by just talking, talking, talking. And whatever they do, they might do fast. Of course, some people talk fast. They don't mean that they're always manipulative.